Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
We made this.
Hello! Welcome to the second We Made This Star Trek Roundtable event. The We Made This network is a collection of brilliant podcasts talking about, reviewing, and deep diving on all sorts of movies and television productions, comics, and more. And of course, we follow all things Star Trek. And so we've brought together the hosts of our Star Trek podcast universe, the Podverse, if you will, together to chat about all the news that came out of Star Trek Day 2021. My name is Mike Slamer, and I am the host of We Are Starfleet, a Star Trek Discovery podcast. And Star Trek Day is now this big annual event wherein CBS and Paramount spend mad money to host a special event of panel discussions, red carpet interviews, music, and of course they gotta bring in these sneak peeks at what's new and upcoming in the Star Trek universe. So we're going to be breaking this conversation into parts, and first I'd love to introduce my guests that are here with me live, Mr. Craig McKenzie and Mr. Kurt North, who host and guest across Rarely Going, which covers Lower Decks, and Make It So, which covers Picard, as well as hosting special episodes and guesting across other network shows. So, gentlemen, hello. It's so nice to be with you today.
Hello. It is so nice. How are you doing?
We are struggling. I had an internet crap out this morning, and it's still not there, so I had to bypass the EPS conduits and tether a hotspot in order to get this up and running. But here we are.
Well, my communications bridge was down as well, so I've had to do a few little isolinear chip adjustments. So we're finally here, we're finally together, and that's the main thing. Communications bridge has been set up, and
I'd like it to be on the record that I was fine. I had no issues whatsoever.
Well, that's because you're on your tough little ship. That's what you're on.
Now that I've said that, I will have a power cut or something. Just I won't come back at all.
All here in half an hour is like ramming speed.
Just how I roll.
You're going to be sitting there in your captain's chair with your riding crop, waiting for the transwarp engines to take off.
Yep. Just how I roll.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Well, folks, I'm so glad to be sitting here with you to talk Star Trek Day. The overall event, right? It took place September 8th, 2021, and it's 55 years of this glorious franchise. I mean, that's a hell of a legacy to leave, and to celebrate it with something like this, to make it a real day, to make it a real event, is something special, and it definitely feels like a love letter to people like us, the fans who have been here through it all.
Yeah, it does. And I think what's really interesting with this one, obviously, the 50th was a bit of a shambles, wasn't it? Really, but the fact that we've got a chance to celebrate it is really good, and I think it's delightful. What I think from this event, which is really telling, is that they're pushing the Paramount Plus stuff. And I think that might have had a knock-on effect, because I know that the First Contact Day stuff, that we in the UK were watching that around 10 o'clock at night, where this was on at 1:30 in the morning over here. So that was a bit of just a general gripe from me, really. But it is fantastic that, you know, it was nice to see, you know, an actual event rather than, you know, being digital, being virtual and things like that. So, and it was a bit of a mix of both, wasn't it? So I thought it was overall for that, you know, it was a good vibe that we were able to celebrate the 55th year, and it actually be more of an event than it would have been in the past couple of years.
The 50th was a complete shambles. I agree that it was beyond it was coming out, and what do we get in that? Just a cast photo. That was the only callback we really got in that year.
Yeah.
And hilariously, there's a film that was out around the time of the 50th, Please Stand By, which is about Star Trek. It's about Star Trek fandom. And in that film, Paramount are doing a competition for a fan-made script to win, to win a competition, and that's the most unrealistic thing about the film. Paramount would never celebrate the 50th anniversary of Star Trek anyway. But yeah, it wasn't so long ago that we were wondering. I mean, pre-2009, right after Nemesis and after Enterprise had been and gone, we were wondering if we're ever going to see Star Trek stuff ever again, because it seemed like it was just on the back burner for so long. Paramount had stopped caring about it. And then the 2009 film, and then there's a saga of those films kind of being on the back burner as well. They almost seem to be, we'll get around to releasing another one. And they still seem to be a bit like that. But to have it be so prolific on television with 5 in-production TV shows all airing over the next year or so is staggering, and it's great to have it all back. I think we'll talk about here and there how we may have our issues with bits and pieces of it, but it's great to have Star Trek to critique again. And that's all I want, really. I'm not going to necessarily love every second of it, but I'm going to love every second of it being around for me to absorb.
Yeah, you really nailed it right there. 5 productions, either in production, on air, and within the next couple of years, they're all going to be in their 2nd and 3rd, 4th, 5th seasons at some level. And that's something that none of us ever dreamed of having in this era. I mean, I know that the Kelvinverse gets a lot of hate back in, 2009, the first Star Trek movie, Star Trek Into Darkness, Star Trek Beyond. But that trilogy released via Paramount really kind of reminded everybody, hey, Star Trek is a viable franchise. Bring it back. And here we have, little over 10 years later, this massive collection of brilliant actors reprising roles. You have brilliant new faces, new talent. You've got these great new studios getting involved. And the VFX work, as you know from listening to We Are Starfleet, it's unbelievable. I just went back and watched season 1 of Star Trek Discovery. I recently upgraded to a proper 4K TV. And wow, seeing it like all up close, these glorious, we call it starship porn, right?
Yeah.
Seeing it all come to life. Man, it's brilliant. And it's something that, we only dreamed of watching Star Trek The Next Generation on our little tube TVs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was interesting, like the back end of the actual event, when you put it into context, when Will Wheaton was saying that Star Trek was on TV for 18 years solid, and that was the golden era of Trek. And then you think about this, is like it's the sheer amount of compactness and the way that TV is now, that you've got these 5 shows that are either in production or being released. It's second and third seasons being announced, pretty much straight away and things. And as I say, just this sheer amount of stuff that's going on at the moment, it's telling. But what in itself is really interesting, as well as the VFX and stuff like that, is the kind of the diverse nature of what they're trying to do with the Trek universe, and in the different shows that they're trying to portray, that they all have their own flavor. Which obviously. In the past with Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, yes, they have their own individual kind of aspects to each of the shows, but they were all of the same nature. And it's just really interesting where we are right now. And I think it's a good time to be a Trek fan. And as Craig rightly says, there's things that all of us will not particularly like, and certain aspects that people will love. And and you've only got to look at something like my show, Make It So, with Star Trek Picard, that there's Luke, who's actually probably the one person who's actually really kind of confident and looking forward to seeing what's happening with Picard. And, there's a bit of a difference in opinions in even our community, in the We Made This community. So it's really intriguing, and I think it's a really interesting time to be a Trek fan.
For sure. Yeah, I do agree with what you say of back in the heyday, the Berman era. they were of a piece, whether it be, there would be differences between them, but it was all Starfleet people doing stuff, broadly speaking. And you would get variations on that, but it was along the same lines. Whereas now you've got an animation about lower ranked people. You've got an animation about people that aren't in Starfleet. You've got a 23rd century Starfleet set show. You've got a 31st or 32nd or whatever year Discovery's in now set Starfleet show, I guess. So maybe they two are a bit connected in a way. You've got Picard that is just, I don't even know what to describe Picard as anymore. Vanity project? Let's go with that. I'm going to stick with that. Upcoming Section 31, maybe. That's still a thing that's happening. So we're getting to see different aspects of the universe that we never got to before. And I think Star Wars, is that a swear word on a podcast like this?
Ooh.
I'm going to say it, yeah. But I think Star Wars is doing pretty much the same, or has been for a while, just picking into little bits and pieces of lore that you can play around with. And both franchises can do it. And it's great to see, because it's such a rich world that you only ever got a very tunnel vision look at before, but now we're getting, slowly but surely, but a broader sense of how it all works. So I love it.
And that's really the power of storytelling in this new age of serialized television, which has been around now for 15, almost 20 years. And it's a fairly modern form of storytelling for television in and of itself. Historically, it's always been episodic. Historically, audiences would turn on the TV not knowing what was on that night, unless they were rabid fans of a show. They didn't know what Friday night's episode of Star Trek The Next Generation was actually going to be about, aside from whatever they saw on the Coming Next teaser, right? So that's the difference. And now we have an opportunity as fans to see different sides of the lore, of the universe that we love so much. Now, to that point, there's a lot of stuff in there that we might not like, but there's a lot of stuff in there with stories that need to be told, that are rich in lore and content and mean something. Whether we talk about Ian Alexander and Blue Del Barrio portraying the first non-binary characters in Star Trek, can you argue that it was Terry Farrell who did that with Jadzia Dax? Sure, you can make that argument, and I think that these arguments are good to have. Yeah. I think that they bring a great conversation to the fold, because as Wilson Cruz said on the red carpet, Star Trek is all about showcasing the human element and who we are, right? And this is who we are. We are trans people. We are non-binary. We are straight. We are gay. We are queer. We are all of these things as a humanity. And Star Trek has always looked past humanity. It's looked inwards and said, this is who we are, flaws and all, and yet we are still more than that.
Yeah. What I found on just as we're talking generally about this this event was it was really interesting to have the two people on the red carpet where one hasn't seen some Star Trek. And
I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, I thought that was actually really good from my perspective, but I could see, I don't know if it happened on the night, I could see there might have been some bashing at that night on that night because of that, and even like Will Wheaton said towards the end of the show, just like, well, I won't watch the first season of Star Trek Next Generation. I just like, even Will Wheaton says that, so that's fine. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that they had someone who hasn't isn't into the lore as much as a lot of people would be, and I put myself in that category. I haven't seen all of the original series, so it's nice that we're including fans and including people who haven't seen all of the shows, and I think that's really good.
How do we boot Kurt out of the call now that he's admitted that? How do we get him out of this?
Don't boot me out. I'll never come back again at all.
We went so much trouble. But no, I totally agree with you. I didn't see all of the red carpet stuff. I found it a bit draining to watch, I guess. But I always feel like that about red carpet stuff. It's killing time, isn't it? It's the time before the show starts, and they were delayed as well. I could tell from that it was supposed to be 20 minutes or whatever, and then it was, oh God, we've got to fill another 10 minutes. Let's talk to Jerry O'Connell. Maybe he'll give us some chat. And to be fair, he did. But yeah, having someone there that's just there to do the job and doesn't know a lot about Star Trek, it's a declaration of intent in a way, because we are making Star Trek for people that don't know about Star Trek now. we want those people to come in. We were inviting you in to watch this and enjoy it and find your own way in. And we'll talk about it later on. But they specifically mentioned that Prodigy is designed as that entry point. Mm-hmm. And I think any of it could really be an entry point at this point. Well, probably not Picard. I think you might struggle if you don't at least know a little bit about Next Gen. But on the whole, you could pick up most of these shows and probably get on with it. Discovery, certainly. Lower Decks, maybe not. But I think that there's entry points there. I think it's important to bring new people in and sustain the fan base. And anybody who's kicking off online about, oh, this interviewer didn't seem like she knew what she was talking about, just get a grip, find something else to complain about, or just keep it to yourself. Like you're belittling people here, which is against the spirit of the thing that you're supposed to be watching.
That is true. While watching it, I did have a hard time with the with the red carpet. I thought that, especially when they spoke with the cast of Star Trek Discovery, it was brilliant. You had Mary Cheffo, who came out publicly, and that's a brilliant moment in and of itself, that we as an audience get to share that moment with her and take it all in. And it seems to me as though, as far as red carpet interviewers go, their whole job is to, just to mull, and keep the conversation flowing as much as they can. And I could tell they were enthusiastic, they cared, they really wanted to know more, and they were excited to be there. And that's really important to have that hype level. But yes, of course, knowing some of the subject matter certainly helps. And, if they had approached some of the conversations a little differently, maybe the red carpet could have been more fun. But as it was, the actual event itself with Jeff Russo and the Star Trek Orchestra, absolutely beautiful. I had chills when they were going through these so familiar themes.
Well, I would like to say I had the same, but because I'd only had a certain amount of time, I had to fast forward them. So I'm going to go back to them eventually. I did listen to some of them and some of the Giacchino stuff that they played, and I think the Next Generation I caught a little bit of. But you could tell there were seasoned performers, and it was brilliant. And obviously, I stayed when Isa Brones came on and did Blue Skies. That was a brilliant moment. So I definitely watched all of that as well. So yes, I can imagine that, and it'd be nice to go back to them moments. Because obviously I was looking for more of the content for this podcast today, but yeah, it sounded great from what I heard in the few bars that I heard here and there. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm the same. I had to skip past some of it. I got bits and pieces of it, and I watched a lot of the opening montage, I guess, of different
the monologues.
The different compositions when they went through Discovery. They went through the First Contact overture and so on. So they medley. There we go. That's the word. The medley. That's what it was. Yeah, there it is. And that's it's just whenever I hear that fanfare, I'd get chills. After all these years, it still gets you. And I think the music is a big part of it. I think every series has its own striking theme. I remember when I first heard the Discovery theme, I was thinking, this isn't going to earworm me. I can't see this catching on. And then a couple episodes in, there it is. And now I just skip it because that's what you do with Star Trek intros. After you've seen them a couple of times, you're like, skip.
Star Trek Prodigy, that's the latest and greatest, the newest show that's going to be airing on Nickelodeon and Paramount Plus. With this, we learned a little bit more about the characters, the overall plot, and hey, it's a Nickelodeon show, so its audience are in fact children, but I know that I myself and adults will be rabidly watching this. So, Kurt, let's start with you. What's your thoughts?
I thought it was interesting the way they talked about the on the panel, the way they talked about the growth. I think one of the cast members, or maybe the director or something, said that growth is going to be important in the show. It's going to take the time. That they don't know anything about the ship, but eventually they're going to kind of eventually get there. And the world outside is the same big bad world as any. Space is a big bad world, and they're not pandering to the child to kind of focus on that, which I thought was interesting. I think that's a good way to go, because as you say, it's not only is it aimed at the Nickelodeon age range, the demographic of that, but people like ourselves will be watching it. And I from the trailer, when I just talked about the trailer recently, I think that the trailer looks like it was going to be, something that's actually going to be really worthwhile watching. And I haven't changed my mind on that with the second trailer either. I think it was, it's certainly going to be an interesting take, and it sounds like there's going to be an arc of learning how the ship works, learning about the Federation, understanding what the ideals and what the morals of the stories are. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the first couple of episodes just to see how they're going to focus the minds on that. And I thought that they did really well. It was nice to see Kate Mulgrew do the introduction as well, so I thought that was nice. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be solid. And they were talking about the artwork and obviously stuff like that as well, and the kind of style of the show. And I think it's going to be an interesting one. I'm not quite sure what the fandoms are like for it, but all I've seen is positivity. So hopefully, that's going to be a really interesting show.
I have so many thoughts on Prodigy, actually, just after seeing the panel. And I don't know if it's come across in other podcasts I've done on the network, but I'm a big fan of animation. I watch a lot of superhero animated stuff, and whether it be DC or Marvel. And the best examples are the ones made by people that just want to tell a story about Spider-Man, or tell a story about the Justice League, or tell a story about whoever. They just want to do it, and they're doing it in animated form. And they're aiming at a specifically young audience, but at the same time, they don't want it to be inaccessible to adults. And I've interviewed a few people that have been on, or that have been on the production team of animated shows who've written them and so on. One guy, Chris Doc Wyatt, his name is, he worked on a bunch of Avengers cartoons and so on. He's very, very good. But he made the point about, if you're making a show for kids and you talk down to them, they know you're talking down to them. They're smart enough to know that, and they will turn off. They won't want to watch it because they feel like you're insulting their intelligence. And I felt like the production team on Prodigy get that. From what they were saying, they were talking about, we're telling a story about young people growing up, and they're looking at the Federation from an outward perspective. So you get a different look at it. You get a different set of opinions on it, and that'll be interesting. And the characters grow, as they say. Whether they actually will in the show or not, obviously we don't know, but sounds like they will. And of course, they should. So kids can watch it, young people can watch it and think, okay, here's the lessons that these people are learning. Here's the values of the Star Trek universe. Here's the value of the Star Trek universe. And here's where I can get in on it. And maybe I'll watch some stuff later on, or, that we've had before and things. So it seems like they're taking it very seriously. And they're just telling a Star Trek story rather than it's a kids' show that's set in the Star Trek universe, because that makes it sound less appealing if you put it like that. But no, I don't think they're going to dumb it down just because it's aimed at young people, and nor should they.
Yeah, as they said on stage at the panel, kids are very smart, and in a lot of ways they're smarter than adults. So, to, as you said, not pander to them, to show them in a world that is very realistic and is hard. Listen, kids today are going through a lot of hard things, and media exists for them too, to help them cope with it, to help us cope with it. We're not immune, right? And a lot of times, some of these animated shows, thinking about, for example, The Dragon Prince on Netflix, beautiful, wonderful animation style. And I feel as though with some of these types of shows, I relearn life lessons that I learned as a kid, of working together, of partnership, of honesty and transparency, and being your authentic self.
Yeah, for sure. I think, the lessons will be perhaps less than subtle, but we've seen a lot of Star Trek aimed at adults that is less than subtle. Measure of a Man comes to mind, where they spend 45 minutes telling you data is life, data is a life form, data is sentient. Mm-hmm. Pay attention. So they moralize. Of course, they've always been moralizing. And I know that they used to say back in the day, Gene Roddenberry thought he was cloaking moral lessons in science fiction, where he wasn't really. They were very overt moral lessons. And sometimes they have to be. Sometimes you do have to beat people over the head with your message because they won't get it otherwise. I watched Supergirl, and that show, whenever it tackles an issue, it makes it very clear what it's trying to tell you. And there's a place for that, and especially for younger viewers. And as long as they present that message in a strong and positive way, and I think this show will. Also, it seems very adventure heavy. I really like the swashbuckling nature of it from the trailers. And so I think that the storytelling it'll give you that lesson, but it'll give you a lot of fun things in between as well. And John Noble is going to scare the hell out of kids. He really is.
What a great piece of casting that is. You know, for both of them. I can't remember the guy from Westworld's name now off the top of my head, but yeah, I think that was the amazing piece of casting. Man, I love John Noble in Fringe, so yeah, it's I think it's marvelous. And everything you've said is it sort of echoes what I've been saying. I think that the levity is going to be quite interesting. You know, with things like the pew pews in the trailer and stuff like that, which I thought was nice as well. So I think there'll be a nice balance from the show itself, and yeah, it's definitely something to look forward to.
Speaking of things that we are collectively looking forward to, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, the latest prequel series in the Star Trek universe, focusing on Captain Pike and the initial adventures of Lieutenant Spock and First Officer Una Chin Riley? Did they give her the full name?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So now
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
It's time for today's Lucky Land horoscope with Victoria Cash.
Life's gotten mundane, so shake up the daily routine and be adventurous with a trip to Lucky Land. You know what they say. Your chance to win starts with a spin. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com to play over 100 social casino-style games for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
Available to players in the U.S., excluding Washington and Michigan. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
folks, if you go way back and you watch the very first episode, the pilot episode, The Cage, we are following the story of these characters. And what I found so interesting in the panel discussion where they had Anson Mount, Rebecca Romaine, Ethan Peck, and executive producers Akiva Goldsman and Henry Alonso Myers. So they were all on stage, and Akiva Goldsman admitted that this is going to be their story. It's going to be episodic by nature, where they still have those serialized character arcs, where we're going to be following them and their relationships with each other, whether they are romantic or platonic, regardless. I'm sure we're going to see some stuff about Spock and Uhura, which we'll get into in a moment. But the episodes themselves, Goldsman says they're going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that's going to be their series. So I, for one, very excited to return to the bridge of the USS Enterprise. No bloody A, B, C, D, or E.
Yeah, it was interesting, as you say, with the episodic stuff that he mentioned, things like the Twilight Zone, and Now Henry, I think it's called. Yeah, so the fact that, and he said that obviously, and we've heard this before from them, that they're going to have a character arc, but obviously it's self-contained episodes and you can build characters from that. And that's the way I honestly thought that when Star Trek came back, that's the way they would go when Discovery was coming out. But obviously that wasn't the case to be. And, then Discovery came out and did what it did. So it's, and I think again, it goes back to that, Star Trek for everyone, that you've got a show coming out that's going to be fairly standard to what the 60s and the 90s Trek were. So I think that's it's going to be good from that perspective. What I really appreciated was some of the stuff they were talking about with Anson Mount and how they were kind of focusing on his his quarters and how they've built this table around, because he wants to, they were saying it leading by the way that he leads, and they're building this kind of kind of resonance and mirroring of the way that he leads by example, and having the quarters designed like that. And some of the even like sort of behind the scenes stuff with the the way that they were saying they were in the ready room and they were watching the reactions and some of the new effects that they've got, the way they can actually see it in camera and things like that was quite interesting as well. So I thought it was a good actual thing there. And again, the fact that some of the red carpet was repeated here, because obviously the build coming into on the red carpet, and then obviously replaying or rephrasing what they've said previously as well. But I like Akiva Goldsman's enthusiasm. I find him really kind of a nice guy, and I like the way he's actually really enthusiastic about stuff. So that came across really nice as well. So I think the Strange New Worlds stuff, without going into the next part, which I know we will be doing shortly, I think it was a really good panel, and probably the best panel of the lot. And then obviously the kind of the reveals was interesting. So I think that part was especially a good element.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Craig, what do you think?
I'll be interested to see if they can deliver on this promise of episodic storytelling, and what does episodic storytelling look like in the modern Trek sphere. So character development across episodes with episodic problems that they have to deal with. I think Star Trek has had weird flirtations with serialization before. Obviously, Deep Space Nine was serialized, kind of, but you can still watch an episode of Deep Space Nine, even that will be part of an arc, but it's not really part of an arc. It will just make a mention of it. It's still a 3-act or 5-act, as it is on TV, I guess, structured story. And it'll be interesting to see if they're capable of that, because we haven't seen it really in Star Trek outside of Lower Decks, which is heavily episodic, but also with character arcs in there. So I guess that's your template for that at the moment, but it'll be interesting to see how that shapes out. And I imagine every episode, or maybe not every single episode, but a lot of them will start with Captain's log, stardate, whatever. We're approaching a system where there's a sun about to blow up, so we're here to scan it. And then on the ship, there's problems happening between ensign whoever and lieutenant whoever, and you have to play with that. So it'd be interesting to see how they can replicate that 90s era storytelling, if that's what they're planning to do. But it does sound like they're going to give it a good go anyway, because Rebecca Romaine specifically, she mentioned she found it weird filming the episodic storytelling, because I guess they were filming them out of order anyway. So it'd be you're doing a scene from totally different stories day to day, and that would be a bit jarring, I guess, because instead of being aware of where you are in a serialized story, you have to be aware of where you are in 3 or 4 different stories over the course of however long you're filming it. So it's pretty cool, and I'm really excited about it. Anson Mount's Pike is a great addition to the franchise. It's got to be the most long delayed time for a pilot to get picked up to series, if you think about it.
Brilliantly said. I will say that for a very long time, I was always against this show from the standpoint of, listen, it's the original Enterprise, it's Captain Pike, it's Spock, and here we have another number one, so we have a trio at the lead, right? And this is just the original series being reskinned and with different characters. So it kind of takes away a little bit of that legacy from Captain Kirk and crew for me. But I say that to preface that I am very excited, because Anson Mount's Captain Pike really won me over, and the new visualization of the USS Enterprise is absolutely brilliant. And they got me. They sold me. So I'm going to be here every step of the way. I'll be podcasting with you guys about it, and I'm super looking forward to it. I am bummed that we didn't get a trailer.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised by that. I thought we would get something. I mean, I know that the announcements of Uhura and some other interesting names that pop up, which we'll talk about in a second, was there. But that's the thing that I felt there wasn't like for me personally, there wasn't a moment in the entire day where it was like, ooh, it was good and enjoyable to watch, but there wasn't where, it's very rare you get a moment where Sir Patrick Stewart walks out on stage to say he's coming back. You can't reach that height, but it just felt like there was only really the Prodigy and the Picard trailer, and the Picard trailer which we'll get into later on, you know, has a lot of people concerned in some regards, but it didn't feel like there was a moment. There didn't feel like there was a magic moment in there, and I think that was probably what was missing. And the fact we don't get to see anything of you know, apart from obviously the talking heads of this show, it was a bit disappointing.
Although a couple of the announcements did look like they were clips from the show. It was like, I'm playing Christine Chapel, and then you see her just turning around, and it's clearly a clip from the show. But yeah, it doesn't show you anything. It just shows you that's Christine Chapel. And then you got stills of slightly changed uniforms with embossed stuff on the shoulders and things like that. So yeah, we didn't get a trailer. Maybe they're not that far into post yet to cut together one.
Yeah.
Because they haven't said when it's actually going to air, have they? They've just said, yeah, next year sometime. So, or did they? Did I not pay attention? But I don't think we've got an air date yet.
We don't have an air date. Yeah, we don't have an air date. The nice thing about the announcement video is, yes, we did get a little bit of the casting announcements. We have Cadet Nyota Uhura, so I'm glad that they're also canonizing Nyota. I feel like that's been long overdue. Dr. Mbenga comes back to the Starship Enterprise. We have Nurse Chapel, who originally was played by Majel Barrett in the original series, who also played the position of number 1 to Captain Pike. So a lot of people were like, oh, you know, maybe Rebecca Romaine is just going to put on a wig to play Nurse Chapel. Ha ha. You know, yes, that would be amusing, but also I'm glad that they gave it to a proper person who could embody that and live that. And like you said, Craig, we did see some new uniform changes. I'm excited about that. So we went from, you know, the tight high collar offset button or zip up uniform, and now it looks like we have the classic t-shirt uniform. So that should be interesting. Yeah, like visually, it looks great, and I'm very excited for it. How do you guys feel about the Noonien Singh announcement?
I find that interesting. I'm pretty sure it's not what we're going to be expecting. I think it might end up just being a name, and they're just throwing it in there because people like us will be like, oh, and her name's like Lan, isn't it? So it's kind of sounds similar to Khan, but I don't think that'll be necessarily what we expect it to be. I'm really not sure, because I don't know how you play with that, especially when Space Seed's a few years off in the timeline of the universe. But in terms of other characters, I think we're going to see other people show up over the course of it.
If I was, and of course I'm an internationally renowned showrunner of many TV shows, but if I was doing that and I'd put in that, personally, I would give it a bit of a red herring, but then not overtly use it and have it as potentially as a story element in a few seasons' time or something. So you've just always got that in your back pocket that if you feel that you can find a story, then maybe do it in future. So yeah, I think it may be a slight red herring as well. That it just might not even get referenced. But it does, as you say, even for somebody who hasn't seen the original series like in its entirety, that's the name that instantly pops up and go. Even I'm going, oh right, okay, that's interesting. Yeah. So yeah, and of course the fact that we do have, the fact that we've got Uhura, and then they started talking about Spock's feelings and stuff like that. They referenced like Spock, didn't they, with how he is in the cage and
he smiles,
how he's all smiles and all that kind of thing. And they mentioned that, and then they started talking about feelings and things were maybe like hinted at in previous in the original series. So I thought it wasn't exactly unless they're going to really throw us a loop. I don't think many people will kind of go, well, I don't really know what they're talking about. I think it's fairly obvious what they might be pushing towards. I don't know if I'm going down the wrong path at all, but for me, it feels like
they were. We've got noise. Hang on. No, they were. Hang on. Right. Okay. No, they were flirtatious in the original series at least once. There was an episode where Spock was playing the Vulcan lyre. I think that's the name of the instrument, and Uhura was singing along, and Spock even smiles and rotates in his chair to face her and stuff. So you get the impression that there might be a bit of a something there, but since the original series wasn't really about that, they never really go deep into it. They do pick it up in the Kelvin verse, of course, where they are in a relationship. So I don't know if they'll go down that route. Maybe they'll flirt a bit but never make anything of it, I suppose.
Yeah, I've seen that scene, but I haven't seen that episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember that scene, yeah.
It's important to remember that even though there have been 3 years worth of the original series episodes, they were on a 5-year mission, and a lot of stuff happened in between what we actually saw on screen. So yeah, let's fill in some gaps. Let's go back and look at how they became who we know them to be as the legends they are today. And speaking of legends that we have today, let's talk a little bit about Star Trek Picard. New trailer.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Q. There's time traveling. And I want to preface and say that Luke will be dropping in to discuss his thoughts as well a little bit later. So, Craig, let's start with you. Before we jump to Kurt, I want to know, how do you feel about all this new content from Star Trek Picard Season 2?
So the trailer, unfortunately, didn't grab me. I do like the characterization of Q as being the malevolent trickster. That's the best version of him. The Q that throws the Enterprise into the path of a Borg cube to teach Picard a lesson, rather than the Q that decides that it'd be funny to put them in Robin Hood times and have them rescue Maid Marian Vash. That's not the Q we want to see. That's not the Q we need to see. So the malevolent trickster, if he's trying to teach Picard a lesson, I'll be interested to see what that lesson is. But I don't think the production team of Picard have that grasp over what people like about the character, what people want from the character. And I'm not sure Patrick Stewart does either, funnily enough. I mean, he created the character, he made the character who he is, but at the same time, I'm not sure that he gets what people want from him. It's more about what he wants from it. But we have this alternate fascistic reality, which is boring now. It's like evil Superman. Don't want to see evil Superman. Don't care. I want to see good Superman. I want to see good Star Trek, positive Star Trek. And I want to see not a totalitarian universe. And it seems like they all get their memories back and have to go fix it. So there's a Borg cube, a Borg queen in cold storage that they can thaw out for time travel purposes. I don't know why you don't just use one of the other 100 methods of time travel that they've used over the period, but whatever. And we're going back to modern times because I guess it's cheaper to film in modern cities than it is to create a sci-fi world. So we'll see. Every Star Trek series practically has had we'll go back to the time that the show is set to save money for a couple of weeks thing.
That's usually like an episode or two at best, you know. So maybe it's an episode or two at best that we're back in time. Yeah. Kurt?
Yeah. So I was a bit more positive with the trailer. Considering where I was when I saw the first teaser, and the Q thing is worrying me a little bit, but now that I've seen this trailer, I think it's not going to be as overt as what it could have been. So I'm a little bit more enthused with it. I would agree that the kind of the dystopic stuff, I actually really like dystopian media. So it's not a major problem for me, but I know that Star Trek does it in a slightly different way. And I'd prefer to see more of a Deep Space Nine darker feeling to it. This just feels like it's people in uniforms kind of going down the Star Wars Stormtrooper route in some ways, and I'm not particularly fond of that. Now, I just reading between the lines with the way that Picard is, are we going to get this for a full season? I don't think we will. It is the event that Q's kind of caused. Is this something that's going to like splinter for a number of different reasons? And I found that the wording that Seven uses, that saying that time is broken, was like, well, what does that actually mean? Because that's it's not like so it doesn't really kind of say, oh, well, with timeline's changed, or the fact that time is broken. And I know that Patrick Stewart has mentioned about this shattering kind of aspect as well. So I'm just wondering if this is just a small piece of a bigger puzzle, and I'm hoping that we've kind of have not spend too much time on here, because they're saying they've got 3 days in that. So I don't know if it's going to be a case of, we might get this in the first 2 to 3 episodes, and then we just move on. We get more of an interesting thing to it. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I also find that I think it's modern TV that do this a lot. That, how many times do we have to have, like, in the past of Picard's life, that, you must be running away from something. It's like we've gone through Picard's history quite significantly over the course of time. And I know it's kind of like your novelization kind of thing, where you have to start from a start point and move forward. So I get that, I understand that, but it's sometimes a bit like, okay, this trailer's doing this again, and I'm not saying that just for Picard, I'm saying it in general, that I tend to see that you see that a lot now. I did like the fact that Orla Brady seems to be quite prevalent in the episodes, and there was a lovely moment towards the end of the trailer where you see her with some sort of Men in Black kind of thing that was happening with a lens flare. So I don't know what that's about, and obviously Picard in a tux. I just hope he doesn't do a French accent. But yeah,
maybe he's looking for Nicky the Nose.
Well, he may well be. But overall, I thought the trailer was, while good, it wasn't exceptional. It didn't it. And I watched it, to be fair, again, because it was like on at 1:30 in the morning. I was at work at 5:30 that morning, that I literally woke up and watched it on my phone. And it's probably not the best thing to do when you're waking up at 4 in the morning. So I'm like, oh, okay. But overall, yeah, I think it was a good trailer, but I've got a feeling that there's more to it than just what we've seen.
Well, they seem to be calling back to a few specific things in Picard's history as well. We've got a bit of tapestry because of the road not taken, choices, etc. Mm-hmm. You've got a bit of all good things about I'm going to send you into this weird alternate situation and you have to puzzle it out, or at least that seems like what Q might be doing. So it could be that this is all a fabrication on Q's part, just like the situation in All Good Things, because I think it was pretty well established that none of that was actually happening. And even if it was, it ends in the reset anyway. That's the whole premise of the story. And things like the voyage home, because they're in contemporary times, might be less funny. I'm sure, almost certain it will be less funny. And you've got a bit of potentially City on the Edge of Forever as well. It could be that they have to let a horrible thing happen, because that horrible thing that happens ends up allowing the Federation to exist in some way. So Picard has to let Trump get elected in order to make the Federation happen one day. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I had that thought myself, that because they mentioned about Q potentially doing this, and I would probably suggest that it probably isn't Q that's done this, that Q's actually facilitating Picard to get it back on track, potentially. That's the way I would see it. But obviously, that's all for play, and we'll see what happens with it. But that's the way I saw it, because it just seemed like they mentioned Q a couple of times where it's like, oh, we have to go back because of what Q's done. And I'm thinking, I don't think maybe Q didn't do anything, but we'll see that in the main show in February. So yeah, I thought it was good.
It was gaining all along.
It was Guinan all along, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. Oh, it was Guinan. She's been on Earth the whole time. She was back there in 1870 something, hanging out with Mark Twain.
Very long con
head, so.
on her part, yeah.
Yeah, it's always been the long con with her, huh? The thing about these trailers is that they'll often stitch together footage from the first 2, 3, 4 episodes, and then give you like dialogue and voiceover from episodes 7, 8, 9. So they kind of smash these things together. So it is a misdirection, a purposeful misdirection. And I do wonder if we're only seeing footage from the first 3 episodes that are actually in the can at this point. And it's all gonna just, maybe the first half Because here's the thing, modern Trek, I feel like the first half of the seasons are completely different from the second half of the seasons. And I kind of get the impression that it's a little bit on purpose, and I hope it's on purpose and not a constant accidental form of production and storytelling and producer turnover, if you will. And it's a cohesive story that gets told all throughout. So, remains to be seen, but this does absolutely explain why we saw all those highways forming the Delta around Los Angeles, because that threw everybody for a loop the last time we got together to talk about the Picard trailer.
Yeah, and as you say, with the, I picked up exactly what Craig said with the, have they had to cut back, and for obvious reasons. We've just gone through, a decimating, period of time for a lot of things. So I don't really forgive. I forgive it for that, and if they found a way of saving money by doing that, and Trek has a tradition of doing that. A lot of shows have bottle episodes, for example, as well to save that. Even though often bottle episodes end up being more expensive somehow. But yeah. So I understand that, and I think you're right. I think I like to look at a trailer and view it and have my initial thoughts, but I don't generally start to wonder about it because of that reason. You're only getting the first 3, 4, 5 episodes worth of imagery. And like of Discovery, where it takes a left turn for the mirror universe, for example, so yes, and that can be, from what we've seen so far, it can actually be to the detriment of the shows themselves, And I was talking about What If recently, and I felt like last week's episode, which was the one with the zombies, was kind of like, it's in the middle of the season, and probably is in the middle of the season for a reason, because it's not the best of what they've done so far.
Right.
And Picard had Stardust City Rag, which was in the middle of the season, which didn't do the best so far. So it's, and then obviously they took the left turn then. So I think there is elements of that, and and that's why I don't take much credence to trailers, because trailers on purpose. Marvel are so used to it, aren't they, with like Thor's eye, when they've done that, they just like deliberately put in things and CGI them out and things like that. So it's nice, and it's good for us as a podcast team to talk about these things. But I always take them with a pinch of salt until we actually see what the show's going to do.
I think that is great advice for anyone watching trailers anywhere, because they are designed to get you talking, and that is exactly what we're doing here. And
I hope it's great. I'm just not grabbed by what I've seen so far. Of course I hope it's great. I don't want to hate watch anything. I do that with Flash, and I don't watch it to hate it. I watch it because I want to like it, but then I always come away from it thinking, oh, God, why do I still watch this? And I don't want to feel like that about anything. So I'm hoping that I'll sit down at Picard season 2. They'll have learned their lessons from season 1, and I'll come away from it thinking, that was it. That's what I wanted. I didn't know I wanted it, but I got it. And thank you for fixing everything that I didn't like about your first season.
Speaking of trailers, or actually the lack thereof, Star Trek Discovery did not have any new footage to show us. We didn't get, here's a sneak peek at the first 5 minutes of Season 4, Episode 1, but we did get the premiere date of November 18th, which is very exciting. That means my show, We Are Starfleet, will be returning on that weekend. The panel discussion had Wilson Cruz, Blue Del Barrio, Ian Alexander, Mary Cheffo, and I will be chatting with my co-host Ian Buckley on a lot of the Star Trek Discovery type stuff in run-up for Season 4, so stick around for that. But Craig, tell me, what did you think of their panel? Did you get a chance to watch it?
I did, and I was really interested that they had those actors in particular on, because they are the representation area of the show in a lot of ways, because you've got Culver who's gay, and
with the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woo-hooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Recently resurrected. I don't know. There'll be people out there that have maybe had near-death experiences that might be relating to his journey in a way. And then Adira and Grey, Adira being non-binary, Grey being trans, although I don't think they explicitly mention that in the season that I think the pronoun is that Grey uses.
Yes,
appears.
Right. He has been gendered as he in Star Trek Discovery. Yes.
So that's an interesting one because that's the family angle. They talk about the found family. They all find a family within one another, and Stamets isn't there. The actor's name, Anthony something. That's the one. Yeah, he's wasn't there, but they talk about the family that they're building over the course of the season. And I think Discovery is dovetailing into being thematically about family. It's about the crew becoming a family and being all they have in the future, really, because they left everything behind. And they don't quite get there because some of the characters don't get as much prominence as they probably should. But I did think they did a great job with Grey and Adira last season. They were definitely one to watch, or two to watch. The way that they did the non-binary story for Adira was really good. I want to be known as they. And then Stamets says, yeah, okay, whatever. Makes no difference to me. And then they deal with it from there. So it was interesting that they focused on that for the panel. It might have been an availability thing, but the fact that they managed to latch onto that idea, that character dynamic for the purposes of the panel was really good. And I think Mika Bennett led it very well.
Yeah.
Is it Bennett? No, it's not. Barton.
Yeah.
What is it with me names today? I can't do it.
It's all right. We're not having a good day. Well, this is actually going better than we thought it was. The way
I'm
we've
still
had today.
here.
Yeah.
This, the production issues that we've had over the course of the last 8 hours has been ridiculous. But I think I actually really like this idea that we're going to make sure that Grey gets seen, and I think it's a wonderful Star Trek-y way to deal with that kind of thing. So that's going to be good. And as you say, talking about the parents and. And even like sort of themselves saying in the actual panel that, all three of them tend to live at home on their own kind of thing. And obviously they're coming in and they're forming the relationships outside of work, which was great. And I thought that the found family thing is something that we need to watch out for. And as you say, if it's going to be a main focus of the show, I think it's a really good story to go down. And I hope that they do that really well, because it's certainly an element that when the back end of season 3, I was kind of going, right, okay, if they're going to pick this up next season, it's going to be a really interesting one, and one I'm really looking forward to seeing.
I definitely echo that sentiment from both of you guys about the found family. It's something that is, you don't have to be LGBTQ to understand the importance and the prevalence of having a family that isn't by blood, but rather just a close tribe of your closest friends. We all go through moments in our life that are full of good, full of trauma, and you come out of that on the back end of it. And those who are around you during that time become a part of your family. And for Star Trek to pick up on that, I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, Star Trek has been about found family in different forms. The Next Generation, it took them a long time to become a family because they were co-workers, and you got the impression there was a lot of back and forth career-wise from people, and not among the main cast, but you got that sense. And Voyager, of course, by necessity, they had to become more familial because they were all they had. Deep Space Nine, certainly the core cast, they became a family. I mean, they bickered like it in the case of Odo and Quark, stuff like that. I think that there's always been that family element. There's always been that finding some sense of belonging in other people in Star Trek. And they're just taking that to the next level by having these people identify as being a family and formalizing that arrangement almost.
My only concern would be if they start to be a bit heavy-handed with it. You know, if it becomes like a trope, and it's just like, oh, stop bashing me over the head with it. You know, so you know what I mean. So there's a fine balance, because if they start saying, "No, we found this is our family," and they start doing it overtly like that, and it's
is this
like,
really the time to talk about
nobody...
family when the universe is ending around us as always for the fourth time?
Yeah. So if it's done deftly, I think it will be an amazing thing to see. And
I think that we'll know if they're bashing us over the head with it if they get Vin Diesel to come on the show. Family.
Just comes through. The Dodge Charger comes through a portal. He just starts talking about family.
Oh my gosh. Guardian of the Edge of Forever. Yeah. More like Family Forever. Star Trek Lower Decks. We got a mid-season trailer. Craig, let's start with you, because you are the host of Rarely Going, the We Made This Network podcast group.
Yes.
Lower Decks podcast.
Well, what can I say? Rarely Going also covers Prodigy as well. It's an animated full thing, but yeah, just technicalities. I'm Vulcan. We embrace technicalities, as someone once said. So yeah, what can I say about Lower Decks? I love it. And the trailer is very much a selection of stuff that's unconnected that just promises there's going to be more lunacy in the second half of the season, and it all looks like a lot of fun. And I really like what they're doing this season with fleshing out the command staff as well as the lower deck staff. I think they're starting to merge them all into one, again, a family in a way. I mean, the family is a big part of lower decks because of Mariner and the captain, their mother-daughter. That's their relationship. So they're doing that, and they're giving you more depth to the Cerritos as a setting, as well as just the lower deck side of it. So I love that. And the actors all seem really committed to what they're doing. They seem properly switched on. Is it Eugene Cordero? He's amazing. I always wanted to introduce a clip and turn around and look at it, and he was having a laugh. And Mike McMahon, their constant references to not being able to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog because they'll have to cut the stream and stuff like that. I really enjoyed that. They do seem to gel well together as a group. I love that. So, and Mike McMahon seems like a off-the-wall zany showrunner, and he clearly loves what he's doing. He clearly loves Star Trek. He clearly knows what he's talking about, and he's created a fun show in this universe, and possibly the most unique content they've ever given us from Star Trek in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you call him Mike, because I would call him Michael.
Yeah.
But no, that was fun as well. Just to say the Mike McMahon is basically the real life version of what Lower Decks is, isn't he? Yeah. He's fast talking. He's kind of all over the place constantly. He's just quite a funny guy, and he knows his stuff. So I thought it was a really good panel. The thing with Lower Decks trailers is exactly that you get it's a barrage of stuff, and it's great for that, because that's the whole point of the show. But I did notice things like, Klingons. We've got a Borg cube blowing up. You've got some of the bigger enemies coming. So whether or not how they play around with that, it's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be an interesting element. And I did like he was talking about the movie episode last season, and that these back 3 episodes they're going to be bigger and different and things. So they have aspirations, and I like that. And I like the idea that the way that they set up the season, it seems to be that they are going to look at the back end being the race to the end, where it's kind of like structured that way. So it's not just a case of let's put all our eggs in one basket and put it in episode 3. They're actually thinking about how they progress the season. So I thought that was an interesting insight, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like Lower Decks as a show in general. It's enjoyable to watch, and after watching 1 or 2 episodes, you kind of understand where every character sits in the hierarchy, and you can enjoy it from that standpoint. So as an entry point to Star Trek, I think it might be a little difficult to grasp where all the jokes are, but it's a very easy watch, and I enjoy it for that fact. And I think Mike McMahon does a great job in bringing together all those classic Star Trek elements, although I do think sometimes they're a little heavy-handed with the Easter eggs, but riffing on them, like the Mugato or the Gumato, or the Megata or whatever it is. Everyone says it a little differently, and they were able to take that and make a little bit of a joke out of it. And that sort of thing really speaks to me as a viewer and as a Star Trek fan.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's perfectly, and it is the best Trek at the moment for me in that regard, because it's just one that you can instantly put on and watch and enjoy. Whereas like Star Trek Discovery, I still really like that show, and there's elements that I absolutely adore. It's very kind of obviously Star Trek-y, but Lower Decks is just it's a unique show, and I think it's all the better for that, and it's seen us through the pandemic as well, which is great in itself.
Well, yeah, Star Trek before Lower Decks has never been reverential to itself, really. I mean, Enterprise arguably did that, where so they would reference things that haven't happened yet, such as the Prime Directive, where you'd have Archer say, one day there might be a directive that'll tell me what to do in this situation, stuff like that. I think that's very heavy-handed. And I think with Lower Decks, they chuck in an Easter egg and they expect you to understand what that Easter egg is, apart from the time they explain it as maybe being part of the plot or whatever. But at the same time, it's just Mike McMahon and the writing team, because it's not him that writes every episode, but they all get it, and they're just having a blast, and they're just having fun with the thing that they're making, and you cannot begrudge them that when the end result is so entertaining.
So coming to the legacy moments, we celebrated Gene Roddenberry's 100th birthday, and they had this fantastic panel with Gene Roddenberry's son, alongside Gates McFadden, LeVar Burton, George Takei, and they had this great discussion surrounding Gene Roddenberry's impact on science fiction and culture, which I thought was brilliant. Please check that out. It's all on the Star Trek Day website, where you just type in StarTrekDay.com. I'm pretty sure it is. They also had different cast members come on to chat about, and to launch into different panels and to chat about different things. You had Cirroc Lofton come on to talk about the legacy of Deep Space Nine, talking about Avery Brooks, and him being the first Black lead of a Star Trek show, and how important that was to discuss not only race, but also oppression and tyranny, and also how they played around a little bit with the serialization, and especially war. That was a big thing. And back then, of course, we had it was a very different time in the 90s, and to go back now and to watch it with the lens of knowledge that we have now is certainly something different to take away, and you realize the importance of Star Trek in a new kind of a way, and how they were really thinking forward even back then.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's for me, I think that what they've done there with each of the monologues that were put in, it's interesting that going back to this whole Paramount Plus platform, that if you've got someone talking about every single show and just giving you an idea of a flavour of what those shows were. So I would say, again, going back to the girl on the red carpet, I apologise, I didn't catch her name, but that she was saying, I must go and watch Discovery now, because things are really resonating with me. And I feel that those elements that talking about, Lofton and Montgomery coming on and talking about Enterprise, and you got Garrett Wang and he's doing his impression of Kate Mulgrew, which was funny. But it was like almost like a theme. It was almost like an elevator, kind of pitch, so they're kind of pitching the show, but doing it in a kind of a more of a, this is where Star Trek was in that world at that time kind of thing. So I looked at it from that viewpoint. I mean, obviously it's Star Trek Day, everything got celebrated, but the movies really. So I mean the Kelvin movies I'm talking about there. And I thought that the speeches were great. I thought that obviously the Deep Space Nine stuff was really important, and Anthony Montgomery came across really well. Did. I thought he did a fantastic job. And so I thought that the overall thing was really nice as a Star Trek fan, but I did feel there was a secondary purpose of sort of trying to introduce people to the show. But at the same time, they didn't go down the route of they did it to a degree, didn't they, with elements showing part of the episodes and stuff like that. But it's, I thought it was a nice, effective way to celebrate the 55th year, and I thought as I said, there's just maybe two reasons why they did it that way.
I think it's a good thing to acknowledge how far Star Trek has come over the decades, but also this event is designed to sell the new stuff, because that's what we're making now. That's what we want you to be watching. And maybe some of the older stuff might be a tough sell in that respect. So let's not just do convention panels where we sit and talk to Scott Bakula about being on Enterprise and he answers the usual questions, that kind of stuff. I think it was really good to acknowledge it through the Gene Roddenberry side of things. I haven't seen all of that panel yet because I've had limited time, but I do want to see what all these people had to say, because they had a good cross-section of people from across the franchise on that panel to discuss, well, their personal experience with him as well as their experience of everything. But I remember hearing Ronald D. Moore talk, and it was at a convention, funnily enough, and he was talking about his perspective on Gene Roddenberry. And lots of people like Zefram Cochrane see him as this saint or visionary who brought us into this new enlightened era of television, whereas Ronald D. Moore's perspective is he was just a television writer trying to sell a TV show to a network. Obviously, he had things he wanted to say in that show, but at the same time, he just wanted to sell a TV show and write a TV show. So it's almost like the visionary aspect of him became an accidental addition to who he is. And I think over the years, there's been a lot of truth about, well, actually, he was a detriment to the early years of Next Generation, because he was telling writers, you can't write conflict in this show. And writers are like, what do you mean I can't write conflict in a TV show? That's what drama is. It's conflict. What do we do? So it's good to acknowledge that. And I think that the legacy of it is important, but it's perhaps not what a let's sell you this new stuff thing should be about. And I think that they kept the focus on what's coming up more than what came before, which I think is right for an event like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know you haven't seen probably this section that I'm going to speak about now, but George Takei, or Takai, depending on if it's expensive or not. But it was really kind of solid on what Star Trek was, and I think he may have gone a little bit longer than they expected, because Roddenberry's son didn't have much time right at the very end. But he decided to talk about how Star Trek was on the air and how eventually it found its audience through the 7 days a week tea time slots rather than anything else. Yeah. So that was nice to lay that foundation. I think it was a good way to do it with regards to that. So I thought that worked quite well actually. So it's but I thought it was nice, and Gates McFadden's story was really interesting, and alluding to the grandmother and things like that. So yeah, I definitely thought that overall that the legacy stuff worked. And yeah, they didn't, as you say, they didn't go down the route of panels and what happened to the Klingon virus in Enterprise and all that kind of thing. So at least they didn't go down that route. It definitely felt more of a thematic kind of, this is what the general feel of Star Trek is, rather than this is what happens here. So I thought that was good that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely, it was a little bit corporate minded, because obviously you had the Paramount Plus branding everywhere. All the masks that everyone wore had Paramount Plus on the side of it and Star Trek Day on the other side of it. And that's just the nature of the beast, right? Like, that's how we get these shows. That's how we get people to watch these shows. And this was as much an event for fans as it was for new people, as it was celebrating all the people who work on these shows too. I mean, not just the producers and the writers, but the grips and the sound engineers and the camera operators. They all play a big part in this, all the editors. So it's for everybody. If you love Star Trek, if you work in it, if you live it, if you watch it, if you watched one episode or all 800 of them or 900, then by all means, this is for you. Craig, Kurt, thank you so much for joining me here today at our Roundtable event discussing all things Star Trek Day. Before I let you go, where can we find your guys' shows? Where can we find you on social media? Kurt, let's start with you. Go.
Well, we're all inclusive in here. So the Star Trek Make It So podcast is at Jean-Luc Podard on Twitter. That's the best place to find me. There is just one minor thing I wanted to just bring up before we finish, in that Alex Kurtzman did talk a little bit about the potential for Star Trek Academy kind of show as well. So just to bear that in mind, that they said that they don't want to take too much time. So it was more like, so they were saying, even though we've got 5 shows on the air, that we will take time, and if we want to put a show like that out. So that was a little bit of tidbit information.
Is it going to be like Riverdale, but in the Star Trek universe? Is that what we're going to get? I love CW shows, so, I'm kind of keen for that. I don't like Riverdale, though, but, something like that kind of vibe. Yeah, there's room for it. Why not? Let's give it a go.
Exactly.
Yeah, Starfleet Academy has always been pushed as like a rumor. It was always like kind of sort of in production. It was a working title for the 2009 film for a long time. And it just feels like it's a constant tease.
It was Star Trek 6 at one point as well. That was going to be a Kirk and Spock at the Academy prequel for a while.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's always there. It's always there.
They'll make it one day. We'll see it.
They will. But yeah, so sorry about that. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that. So you can find me on Twitter at rmuldrake. It's RMULDRAKE. As I say, the Make It So podcast is at Jean-Luc Poddard. The 2 main shows that, 3 other shows that I'm on. So you've got the X-Cast, which is the X-Files podcast, and you can find that on the X_cast. We're currently going through season 7. And the Time Is Now podcast, which is coming back because Millennium, the TV show that aired in 1996 to 1999, will be 25 years old in this October. So we're doing some specials for that, and we've got some interesting crossover stuff with the X-Cast and the Millennium and the Time Is Now podcast, which is going to be announced very imminently. So we've got some good news coming and an interesting thing to watch out for. The other major thing is the Red Dwarf podcast, which is on its specials at the moment, and that is found Shipwrecked and Comatose is the show name, and you can find that at Red Dwarf Pod. So that's me.
Craig, what about you?
My turn. Okay. So on We Made This, you can find me on Rarely Going, where I'm co-hosting the Lower Decks coverage at the moment, and I will be continuing on for Prodigy because I'm actually really bloody excited about that show. That trailer just got me amped up. I can't wait to see what they pull off with that. I'm really excited. So it'll be great to chat about that. And I do sometimes appear on Podcast 616. I am not hosting imminently on that, but I'll show up at some point. I'm the Nick Fury of Podcast 616. I will appear at some point. So there we go there. Outside of that, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter under Neil Before Blog, neilbeforeblog.co.uk as well, where I review stuff like Supergirl and The Flash, that show that I watch and hate, and Superman and Lois and Legends of Tomorrow and What If, and there's a podcast attached there too, where we recently talked about The Suicide Squad, which should be released pretty soon, that episode. It's out of the edit suite. Superman and Lois is coming up with that as well. That's in the edit suite. And personally on Twitter, you can find me under Nemesis4909, which appropriately is not a Star Trek reference, or at least not initially. It started life as a Resident Evil reference because I love the third game. And then Nemesis came out as a Star Trek movie, and I was like, oh, cool, that's fine. But yeah, it was back in the day when I was playing stuff like Armada 2 or Armada 1 online or Red Alert, and that was my handle. My handle when I was like 13 years old. So stuck with me all the way through until adulthood, where I'm still, in my heart of hearts, a 13-year-old. So there we go. That's me.
Beautiful. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me in this Zoom meeting ready room. I will have Commander Worf escort you both to the transporter room while I get ready for Mr. Luke Winch, who is going to be coming in on subspace frequencies to share his thoughts.
Hello everyone, my name's Luke Winch and I am host of Make It So and Rarely Going. Just dropping in to let you know my thoughts on Star Trek Day as a whole very briefly, and then my thoughts on the Star Trek Picard trailer, and just riffing off of what Craig and Kurt talked about. I only watched the trailers on Star Trek Day. I didn't actually get to watch any of the panels. I had a very busy weekend, hence why I couldn't participate in this roundtable in person. Prodigy trailer. I think he's jam-packed with charm. I think it's going to be a brilliant way for families to introduce kids to Star Trek. Kurt and I discussed on the Rarely Going episode where we talked about the initial trailers that, this won't be dumbed down Trek for kids. I think it's a great generational entry point, and I'm really looking forward to what they do with this. Lower Decks, I don't have much more to say, really. I am really enjoying watching the show. I am having so much fun talking about it on Rarely Going. They've just got to keep doing what they're doing. It's consistent every week. I think it's the most consistent new Trek out there at the minute in terms of writing. Strange New Worlds. I think we're going to be going back to basics Trek. I think that's what they've pitched, this episodic 60s, 90s type Trek, which is great. I think they're going to have to find a fine balance between nostalgia and new. There's been discourse on social media about re-emerging TV shows and films based on TV shows and films in our childhood. You know, they're being accused of not being new enough or not moving forward by the very same people who are craving these old things. So there's a fine balance that needs to be made there, definitely. So moving on to the Star Trek Picard trailer. I agree with Craig's take on the Q characterization. I think it's the one that's going to work for the world of Picard. Though I do have to disagree with his view that the writers and Patrick Stewart don't understand what the people want from the show and what they want from Picard. I think that's kind of an oblique view to have, because there is, you know, Trek is for everyone. Some people are going to love Picard, and there is a huge fan base, and people are enjoying the show. They're guessing what they want from Star Trek Picard, when other people don't. Some people will just not enjoy it, and that's fine. Trek is great in the fact that there are so many different shows with so many different tones and ways of telling stories, that there is something for everyone. So Star Trek Picard may have not been the best for Craig or for other people. I know there's a lot of people on the We Made This network that didn't really get on with Star Trek Picard. That's fine. I loved it. I'm well aware of its weaknesses. I think there were some terrible problems with the writing. I think there's been problems with the writing for Picard and Discovery, and I think there are some issues that need to be kind of ironed out there. I don't mind the totalitarian twist in this season. Trek has always echoed the times in which it is made, and I think here in the UK and in the US that in the past 4 or 5 years we've undergone some very dark socio-political times. And like the mirror universe has been used, this can be used as a reflection of us as a people, as a culture, as a society, on how to better ourselves, how to be kinder and better people. And isn't that what Trek has always been about? So if the writers have this in mind, and I'm hoping they do, I'm hoping that this totalitarian twist that Q may or may not have caused will be a warning for what things could be, or of what things that have happened in the past that have shaped the world to come. And I think in this day and age, you know, we've undergone such an upheaval, a global upheaval with the COVID pandemic. And even though we are looking at a slightly dystopic looking season 2, there is a line that Picard says that even in the darkest circumstances, there is a light. And this for me is the most important line in the trailer, because yes, we have another dystopian society under the rule of probably a tyrant or an oppressive government, but the light and positivity that we want from Trek will shine through. And I'm hoping that this is the route they're going. And, you know, you can't see the light unless you're in the dark. So you have to have these dark moments, these dark societies to use as lessons to be better people. The seeking or running away theme that Kurt mentioned, which Kurt mentioned is overdone in a lot of serialised modern television, I tend to agree with him that it is an overcooked trope that's used. But I do think it does have some resonance to the Picard character, and again, if written right, could be an important thing for him and an important journey. In TNG, the character of Picard was very sure of himself. He had a very firm belief in humanity, in Starfleet, in himself. In Encounter at Farpoint, he said to Q when they were transported back to this weird dystopic court, "We are what we are, and we're doing the best we can." Picard was assertive and firm in his command and decisions. Now, here in Star Trek Picard, he's older. By the way, the age thing that some people are kind of moaning about doesn't bother me. It never has. It's a non-conversation for me, but I can get why it puts some fans off. I just personally, for me, don't see it as a problem. I do think the writers need to be intelligent about how they write him, and I think they can do that. I think they can learn from some of the writing problems that they had in season 1. So he's an older man. He's less sure of himself. The Romulan disaster and refugee crisis broke him as a man. He's been suppressing these feelings of guilt and regret. He's less sure of his capabilities. He lost his faith in Starfleet and humanity. So could this season be a story of redemption for Picard? Could we see him restore his authoritative, commanding presence again and be the leader, be the commander that he used to be? So yeah, that's my thoughts in general. And I am looking forward to Star Trek Picard. I hope that I'm right. I am very prepared to be let down and be disappointed. So I think that's a good way of going in to this. So there you go. So this is Luke from The Last Surrender signing off.
Great stuff from the host of Make It So and Rarely Going, Mr. Luke Winch. And now with me here is my very own co-host and Trekspert, Ian Buckley. Ian, it has been a Star Trek day and a half, and then some. Tell me, what has been your impression of the overall event?
It has been. And yeah, these events are always fun when they come up. And I think, like a lot of fans, the red meat, at least for the carnivores among us, for the fans, are the trailers and the panels and the announcements that come from these sorts of events. And certainly in that sense, Star Trek Day 2021 certainly delivered. We got a lot of new information about a whole bunch of Star Trek series that are now coming out, as well as new release dates and new trailers and casting announcements. It was a lot of information to take in.
So let's get into some of this red meat here. You and I, we are the hosts of We Are Starfleet, a Star Trek Discovery podcast, and we're going to come back to that last. So first, I want to ask you, Star Trek Prodigy. We talked a little bit about it with Kurt and Craig. Tell me, what are your thoughts?
I'm excited. It's a really fun looking show, certainly for fans of animation and Star Trek to come together in not just Lower Decks now, but also Star Trek Prodigy. It's a really, I think, nice way to expand the Star Trek brand. I know that's kind of a gross corporate way of putting it, but like there's an expanding universe of Star Trek expressions out there, artistic expressions out there, and this is now a new way for fans who have been with the franchise for a long time, and also folks who are maybe coming to it for the first time, especially younger viewers now coming to it for the first time. This is going to be their introduction to Star Trek as a concept, and that's really exciting to me. I think back to when I was a kid watching cartoons growing up. It would have been so cool if there was a Star Trek cartoon that I could have tuned into.
Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So we talked a little bit about the relationships that are going to be airing on this show. We talked a little bit about how it's going to be more episodic, but the character development will still be an overall arc that is, in fact, serialized. How excited are you to return to the bridge of the Enterprise?
I'm really excited, not just for the setting, but also for these characters. I think we're both in agreement that Pike and Spock were strong presences in season 2 of Disco, and it's really, I think, a testament to how popular they were with fans, Pike in particular, when he appeared in season 2 of Discovery, that they basically pulled this show together out of whole cloth. It wasn't a part of the plan, really, until the response to these representations of these characters was so overwhelmingly positive that it almost became an inevitability. Like when there was a sense when you were watching season 2, certainly by the end of season 2 of Discovery, there was a sense that like surely they're going to give these characters their own show now. Like that just seemed inevitable, and sure enough, it's now about to come to fruition, and we learned a lot more about the cast, and that was exciting. I'm looking forward to actually getting some footage of these characters in action now that we've gotten all this sort of promotional material, these images of them in their costumes.
Yeah. On that note, I have to say that video, right? They had several different uniform styles going. And I gotta wonder, where's the green tunic variant?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that there isn't some appearance or some nod towards that command tunic. It's something that I hope they address in future seasons if they don't in season 1 of Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Even like just give me 5 minutes because that's always been my favorite uniform variant of across all the shows, actually. I don't know what it is. There's something about it. I dropped mad money to Anovos, which is like, one of the premier, costuming services. It was some ridiculous number. And I can't believe I spent that amount of money on a shirt. But
Right.
it is screen accurate. It's authentic to the production style, and I love it. I can't wait to wear it when I'm going to Star Trek events.
That's great. Yeah, I hope they do. I'm not as much of a fan of the V-neck style that it looks like they had, but otherwise I like the new uniforms. It's going to be good to see characters in those sort of traditional original series era colors, and to see the return of some original series era faces besides just Spock and Pike.
Yeah, having Uhura on the bridge again is a really nice touch.
Yeah, really eager to see how they incorporate younger Uhura into this series. I hope that it's more than just sort of a wink and a nod. Her being announced as part of the main cast certainly suggests
Right.
that she's going to play a substantial role, and I'm eager to learn more about her journey to becoming the character that we thought we knew.
Star Trek Picard. We got a new trailer. We're coming back to the 21st century. There's some time traveling going on. And Q, of course, as we know, is back. So lots to take away from that trailer. We talked earlier about how it's probably they're front loading the trailer with all kinds of information from the first 2, 3, 4 episodes. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think that's probably a safe assumption, certainly based on the pattern with season one's promotional material. I think it's it's safe to assume that we're going to get these characters through the entire season. Like I think that Jerry Ryan's presence in season one was certainly not a closely guarded secret. She was part of the rollout of that season, but nobody really knew exactly what sort of presence she would have. Would she appear in one episode, 2 episodes, 4 episodes? And now that she's sort of a part of this main cast, I'm assuming that she's going to be in the entire season as a whole. But that's only an assumption, because I think you're right. I think we are only going off of maybe the first few episodes worth of kind of footage in these trailers.
So the big question here is, are we going to get a moment where Picard gets on a bus and says, double dumbass
I certainly
on
hope
you?
so.
It will make all of this
has
worth it
been
if
worth
that
it,
happens. Yes. Star Trek Lower Decks. We got this mid-season trailer. It was a fun panel. You had Noel Wells and Eugene Cordero. And of course, you had showrunner Mike McMahon. Honestly, everything has been positive when it comes to Lower Decks. So, it's fun, it's enjoyable. But tell me, what has been your impression season 2 thus far? How do you feel about the panel? How do you
Yeah, I
feel
don't
about
think
that
you and I
trailer?
have gotten a chance to really talk Lower Decks. I assume you've been keeping up with the season so far. Yeah,
Season
have you
so
been
far.
liking it? I know season one, you said the first half of the season didn't really do it for you. How are you liking the first half of the second season so far?
Yeah. I have been really
Good.
enjoying it. It's a show that I feel like I can put on and watch and not really have to worry about like giving 100% attention to. Like I can give it 80%, I can give it 50% attention, and I can still walk away from it having enjoyed my time with having it on screen. So it serves that purpose. Sometimes you just need a light casual watch, you don't want to go into something being like, okay, I want my heartstrings to be tugged. I want to feel the tension and the anxiety. Sometimes I just don't want that. And Lower Decks delivers that casual, light, kind of breezy feeling that some of the more sillier episodes of Star Trek gives.
It does, I hear what you're saying, but I also appreciate that it is one of those shows that I don't want to not pay attention to because there's so much detail and so many references that if you do look away, you're going to miss. And I really appreciate how much attention to detail and love just jumps out of the screen for this franchise. And that starts with Mike McMahon. He's such a great interview. His energy and his enthusiasm for the project and for everything Trek just kind of jumps out of him and jumps off the screen at you when you watch him in these panels and these interviews. And I love that about him. I love that about the show.
Yeah, he is the right guy. Like I can't think of a better person to be in charge of this show.
Yeah, I'm curious what his take would be on a live action series. Not necessarily a serious Trek show. I mean, maybe, but it could be a comedy. But I'm curious to see what he or what other talented comedy people who love Star Trek as much as he does would do in the sort of live action comedy space. Now that I think Lower Decks is cracking open that door a little bit to, maybe not a Star Trek sitcom, but maybe not a Star Trek sitcom. Maybe something comedic in the live action space is possible at some point down the line.
Yeah. I mean, TOS and Voyager especially have had a lot of those elements of just campiness. And Lower Decks isn't campy, but it brings all those campiness elements into it and looks at it and kind of looks at the audience with its hands open and says, this is all pretty silly, right? And we're all just like, yeah, this is silly. Let's have some fun.
Yeah.
Especially having Robert Duncan McNeil reprise the role of Tom Paris. I'm just feeling like they're opening the door, maybe just a crack, for some Captain Proton.
Oh, for sure. Maybe another holodeck episode. They could reference that. I think there should be a holodeck episode in every season, just like we got multiple in each season of 90s Trek.
Oh, of course. And now we gotta talk Star Trek Discovery, because that's you and me, baby. Like they had this killer panel. Wilson Cruz, Blue Del Barrio, Ian Alexander, Michelle Paradise. Did you get a chance to watch?
I did.
The full panel?
I did. I liked there were a couple of little teases. They definitely are playing a lot of things close to the vest. But I liked that we got a tease that we're going to get at least some good Culber and Saru scenes. That was something that Wilson Cruz shared. That was it wasn't a combination that we got a lot of. And so I'm looking forward to, of course, you and I are both huge Saru fans. We're both very much looking forward to seeing what sort of presence he has in the fourth season. And I was very encouraged to hear that he has some scenes with Dr. Culber, because I think similar to the Picard trailer, I would suspect that the trailers we've seen so far are probably just showing us footage from the first few episodes, maybe first half of the season at most. And Saru's not in it very much, and certainly didn't see him and Culber interacting that at all in those trailers. So I take that as an indication that he has a role to play further on down the road and in the season, late into the season. So I was glad to hear that. And some of the other things that they announced, the biggest one was the premiere date, which is going to be my birthday, November 18th. Yeah.
Oh,
happy birthday to me.
Star Trek delivering you a happy birthday present. Look at that. Yeah, Michelle Paradise basically confirmed that they are going to keep Doug Jones for as long as possible. So knowing that, okay, so he's not in the captain's chair, and maybe he won't get back to the captain's chair, but He's on the show. Is he on the ship? We don't know. Remains to be seen. And that's the joy. This is the kind of stuff I love. Like asking these questions, pondering, theorizing, looking at all these different branches of reality, almost like we're the time variance authority over here, and looking at all of them being like, ooh, what's going to be the right one? What's going to be the right pick? Who's going to show up on the ship at what time, when, where? I love it. I'm here for it. Give it to me now. I don't have to wait that long. It's great.
No, we don't have to wait that long. I've been sort of joking that we don't know exactly when we're going to get a date, but it's probably sooner than we think. And I was thinking like January. I was thinking maybe December, but November 18th is definitely a little earlier than I had thought and hoped, and it's good to see. I know they want to have Star Trek kind of on all the time, and I'm definitely here for that. Going back to what you were saying about Saru, I totally agree, and I really hope that his story plays a substantial role in the season, and that he isn't just sort of an afterthought or irrelevant, because I think as you and I both came away from season 3 with the feeling, I think, like any character who isn't Michael Burnham is kind of increasingly irrelevant, and that's sometimes frustrating from a narrative point of view.
Yeah, it can be.
It makes it a little harder for us to invest in some of these other characters' stories.
Yeah, I was not disappointed isn't the right word, but I kept waiting for to hear something about Tilly, because I'm very curious to see where her story is going to pick up in season 4, and whether she's going to remain first officer, whether she's going to, achieve a standard lieutenant commander rank, or, where is her story going? Because I'm invested, and I feel like a lot of people are. She's a great character. She's a lot of fun to watch and to listen to. So where is that going? But we got to wait. Not long, but we got to wait.
Yeah, based on what we've seen so far in the footage that we've seen so far, we know that there's a big emphasis on togetherness.
Yeah,
and coming together. Have I mentioned that we're all in this together? I think the last trailer that we got mentioned that word maybe 3 times. It was a lot. And it's clear that they're really hammering home this theme of found and forged family. And that's great. I think that's a theme that is very Star Trek. So that's something that I'm glad they're going to be carrying through into this season. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get I think a bit more about the world that we live in the sort of the Star Trek of Discovery season 4. It's not as clear to me what the story is going to be for the season. It does seem like there is still going to be a season-long arc, like there is going to be a story for the season, a capital P problem for them to deal with.
Right.
And that's, that is what it is. But I'm curious that we haven't heard a little bit more about what that is, what that might be, what that might mean for Discovery and her crew.
Yes, for sure. Thank you, Ian, for helping me wrap up this incredibly in-depth discussion featuring so many great guests from the We Made This network. Folks, thank you so much for sticking it out with us. I really hope you enjoyed listening to this as much as we enjoyed making this for you. My name is Mike Slamer, and you heard from Craig McKenzie, Kurt North, Luke Winch, and Ian Buckley. And you can find all of us on WeMadeThisNetwork.com. I encourage you to please check out the website to find out more, find our shows, find our socials, and we'd love to hear your feedback on these episodes, so please feel free to drop a tweet or comment on the socials. Thank you, everybody, and these hailing frequencies are now closed.
Transfer complete.
Elsewhere on We Made This.
Free with this month's issue.
This is Fruit Tree and Red Flower Girl. This is a band that are so fucking difficult to Google because they've got such a generic name. I was trying to Google Fruit Tree metal band and ended up with a load of results for like little metal bands to attach fruit trees to sticks to help them grow.
Oh, right. Send me a link to those.
The name being so generic, as I was doing my research, Esme from Hide From Time podcast had put up a post on Twitter about she was trying to do research for her forthcoming episode that she was doing, where there's a black metal band called Spiral Staircase, and she was trying to Google black metal spiral staircase and just getting black metal spiral staircases, which I thought was quite funny because it was exactly the same situation.
Well, I'm glad someone else suffered the same pain as you.
Yes, absolutely.
They were fantastically on Casket, which is the record label that offered my old band a deal as well, and we did not take it.
Right in the childhood.
But what I will say is, I did like watching Hannah Montana the first or second time. When we had to watch the same episodes over and over again, that was when young Fraser was not very happy about that. For some reason, I've grown out of that. I'll rewatch stuff over and over again. Like, I can't count how many times I've watched How I Met Your Mother. But a younger Fraser did.
I can count how many times I've watched How I Met Your Mother.
Once.
Each episode, one time. And do you know how many times I intend to watch each episode?
Just once.
One time.
Real talk. We made this movie show.
You know, with all the water around, you know, like we're in a noir. I want to see steaming streets. You know, have the streets with all this moisture. Have that evaporating during the day in the intense heat. Like, you know, represent some of this stuff a little bit more visually, because, you know, it felt like she went halfway or 3/4 of the way to a lot of this really cool stuff and didn't quite cross the finish line with some of it.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.